Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm your instructor Sania Gilani and this is the subject of Rise of the Novel 18th and 19th century. Today we are on our lecture number 24 and the topic is George Eliot as a moralist. We will explore the writer of Mill on the Floss, one of the most important aspects of her life, the literary achievements and when the author started to first use the word moralist. Imagine a writer who constantly tells readers what is right or wrong. They imagine long sermons, rigid rules, and characters who are either completely good or completely evil. George Eliot is not that kind of moralist. In fact, one of the reasons her novels remain popular today is that she understands how complicated moral life really is. Her characters are not saints or villains, they are ordinary human beings struggling to make difficult choices. They act selfishly, they act for love, they are yet human at their heart. Morality is not about perfection, it is about understanding, about responsibility, and about recognizing that our actions affect the lives of others. It is also about learning to see the world from perspectives other than our own. This concern with moral life appears throughout the fiction, but it is especially visible in The Mill on the Floss. Through the story of Maggie Tulliver, the author examines some of the most difficult questions human beings face. Should we follow our desires or our duties? How much should we sacrifice for the people we love? Can society judge a person's character fairly? What happens when individual happiness conflicts with social expectations? These are not merely literary questions, they are questions that continue to shape human life today. Today, we will see that George Eliot's grandness lies not only in her storytelling, but also in her ability to transform fiction into a profound exploration of ethical experiences. What does it mean to call George Eliot a moralist anyway? To understand this, we must understand what it means to use the term moralist. A moralist is a writer who is deeply concerned with questions of right and wrong, ethical behavior, human responsibilities, and the consequences of our actions. However, there are different kinds of moralists. Some writers present morality as a fixed set of rules. Their purpose is to teach readers clear lessons. Characters are rewarded for good behavior and punished for bad behavior. George Eliot's approach is far more sophisticated than that. She believes that real moral situations are rarely simple. Human beings often face competing responsibilities, and a person may have duties to family, society, friends, and themselves at the same time. These duties frequently conflict with one another. As a result, moral choices are often painful rather than straightforward. This complexity is what fascinated the writer George Eliot. She once suggested that understanding human beings requires us to see the circumstances in which they act rather than simply condemning them. For the writer, the central moral question is not who is good and who is bad. Instead, it is why do people act the way they do? And how do their actions affect others? This shift is extremely important. It moves morality away from judgment and towards understanding. George Eliot's moral philosophy was that she basically lived during a period of enormous intellectual change. The Victorian age witnessed challenges to traditional religious beliefs, scientific discoveries that transformed people's understanding of the world, and new ways of thinking about society and human nature were popular. Like many educated Victorians, the author wrestled with these changes throughout her life. As a young woman, she gradually moved away from conventional religious beliefs, yet she never abandoned morality itself. Instead, she asked an important question. If people cannot rely entirely on religious authority to determine right and wrong, then what should morality be based upon? Her question it was extremely important, but her answer was remarkably modern. She believed morality should be grounded in human relations, rather than focusing on rewards in heaven or punishments in the afterlife. George Eliot emphasized the consequences of actions in everyday life. According to her, every individual exists within a network of relationships. We affect our parents, siblings, friends, neighbors, and communities. Because of this interconnectedness, no action is ever entirely private. Even seemingly small decisions can have significant consequences for others. This belief forms the foundation of George Eliot's moral vision. She argues that ethical behavior arises when individuals recognize their connection to other human beings and act with consideration for their welfare. In other words, morality begins when we stop thinking only about ourselves. Sympathy is at the heart of George Eliot's moral vision. If we had to summarize Eliot's moral philosophy in a single word, it is this: be sympathetic, be sympathetic. George Eliot's sympathy does not simply mean feeling sorry for someone. It means entering imaginatively into another person's experiences. It means trying to understand how another person feels, thinks, feels, fears, and suffers. This ability, George Eliot believed, is the foundation of all genuine morality. Think about how easily human beings judge one another. We see someone's action and not their struggles. We see their mistakes but not their fears. We see their failures but not the circumstances that produced them. George Eliot believed literature could correct this tendency. A novel allows readers to enter another person's inner world. It encourages us to understand before we condemn. This is why her novels spend so much time exploring the thoughts and emotions of characters. She wants readers to practice moral imagination. She wants us to recognize that every individual possesses a rich inner self. The more deeply we understand others, the less likely we are to judge them unfairly. This principle lies at the center of Mill on the Floss. When Maggie makes mistakes, George Eliot does not ask us to excuse us automatically, nor does she ask us to condemn her. Instead, she asks us to understand her, to sympathize with her. That distinction is crucial. Morality and realism, another key concept of Eliot's moral vision, is related to this concept as well. It remains a compelling argument that she presents it through realism. Many earlier novelists relied on dramatic villains and idealized heroes. George Eliot believed that such portrayals distorted reality. Real people were far more complicated. A loving brother can also be cruel. A devoted daughter can also be selfish. A moral person can make harmful decisions. A flawed person can perform acts of great kindness. This complexity is precisely what makes George Eliot's characters feel so authentic, because they resemble real human beings. Their moral struggles also they feel real. As readers, we recognize ourselves in them. We see our own conflicts, weaknesses, and uncertainties reflected in their experiences, and this recognition becomes a moral lesson in itself. It teaches humility. It reminds us that understanding human beings is the most important thing. And to have sympathy means to appreciate others and listen to what they have to say. I hope this entire novel was interesting for you and you learned a little bit from these few lectures, and you also understood the morality that George Eliot was going for: to never judge someone just based upon the first impression, to try to understand them and to feel sympathies for their own struggles. This was the last lecture on this novel. In the next coming weeks, we are going to talk about our last novel for this particular course, that is by Thomas Hardy, and the novel in question is Return of the Natives. So, when we start the discussion on that novel, we will come back and meet each other. Till then, Allah Hafiz, and I hope I see you guys soon. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.